Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. Good to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are you doing today? Big weekend, huge weekend.
Yeah, we didn't do so hot with our picks.
Yeah. We're about this close to making an entire new topic called What Went Wrong, What Went Right for every Tuesday now. Because I went 5 of 13. I think you went 6 of 13 on the picks. It was definitely not a good week for either of us. But
how could I go 6 of 13? That's 19. 6 and 12.
6 of 13. You went under 50%. There were 13 games this week.
And you were 5 of 13.
5 of 13.
5 of 13.
So you did one better than I did. So we did actually have a really, really good game yesterday, and that is going to be our first topic of today's show. So let's jump right into it. The Vikings hand the San Francisco 49ers their second loss in a row. In the final drive to try to win the game, Brock Purdy throws it right into the hands of Cameron Bynum for his second interception of the game. I believe that was the second interception within like a 5-minute span as well. So not looking too good for Brock Purdy. So I want to know, does this game say more about the 49ers or more about the Minnesota Vikings?
I think it says more about the Vikings. They were 1 and 4 coming into this game. It was a must-win for them, right? 1 and 5. It kind of put your playoff chances, at like 4%, I think. So now they're 2 and 4, and that's a much better situation for them. And
they're 3 and 4 right now. 3 and 4. They were 2 and 4.
Oh, they were 2 and 4 before. 3 and 4. So that puts them in a much better situation than they were before, and gives them a lot of confidence, I think. Looking at their schedule going ahead, they got a lot of games in their division. Division really isn't that strong this year, so who knows? They might be able to get back into some sort of playoff contention. So I think it was a bigger game for them than it was for the Vikings. I mean, for the 49ers.
I'm actually going to say this says more about the 49ers because what did we talk about? I believe it may have been last Tuesday as well when we talked about the Browns and the 49ers. The Browns able to beat the 49ers in that game. I said we finally got to see the 49ers not be 50 steps ahead of every other NFL team. Deebo Samuel got hurt, then CMC got hurt. Trent Williams was banged up in that game. Now with no Trent Williams and no Deebo, CMC was in this game, however. We got to see exactly what another rendition of what the 49ers looked like without being 50 steps ahead of every single NFL team. Those Brock Purdy interceptions, which I'm going to throw right now for our YouTube audience, they were bad interceptions. This first one, who knows what exactly he was looking at, what sort of timing route he was trying to find, but it was just a complete whiff on the play. That was directly into the hands of Cameron Bynum for his first interception. And in the second one, with about 35 seconds left, he tries to step up in the pocket to make some magic happen, and you just got to throw that away. I understand you don't have any timeouts left and the clock is ticking, but at least be safe with the ball. That's something Brock Purdy has always done. So he was keeping the ball right in harm's way. So it was not a great game from Brock Purdy, and that's the first thing. But I also want to say something. I want to mention this first, because early in his career, and actually throughout most of his career thus far, we haven't seen Brock Purdy when it matters most, in crunch time, or exactly when the stakes are the highest. So, what have we seen for the past 2 games? Let's bring up the stats. So this season, when leading or tied, Brock Purdy is a top 5, if not top 3, if not the best quarterback when leading or tied. When he's trailing, which he rarely has done because the 49ers have been so far ahead of every single NFL team when it comes to talent, he's very, very bad. Someone actually say awful. Sub 60% completion percentage, 1 touchdown to 2 picks, and a 72 passer rating. What about just in the fourth quarter of these past 2 games versus the first 5 this season? Once again, phenomenal quarterback in the first 5 games in the fourth quarter. The past 2 against the Browns defense, which albeit is a great defense, but what about the Vikings, who actually have a middle-of-the-road defense, and not a very good defense, held by Pro Football Focus to rank 17th? Yeah, hasn't been too good. 39% completion percentage, 0 touchdowns to 2 picks, a passer rating of 18.4. If you spiked the ball every single play in an entire game, you would have had a higher passer rating. You've actually about doubled the passer rating that Brock Purdy had if you just decide to spike the ball. Yards per pass, he goes from 8.9 in the first 5 games in the fourth quarter to now under 5. Minutes trailing, he didn't trail a single second in the first 5 games. The past 2 games, he's trailed for nearly 21 minutes. So I think this actually says a lot about what the 49ers have going because we talked about it, I think. I think we could both agree on this team, Brock Purdy, even before these 2 games, Brock Purdy was the weakest link on that team. If they were to either lose in the playoffs or lose in the Super Bowl, it would be because Brock Purdy didn't step up. And now we're seeing sort of what Brock Purdy looks like when the stakes are the highest, when he needs to be the one to make the play, not dish it off to a guy named Deebo Samuel or CMC and have him run 55 yards. It was him. It was up to him to try to make the plays, and in this game at least, he just couldn't get it done.
Well, those are interesting stats. I think it does say something about Brock Purdy, and he is a young quarterback. He hasn't played that many games. He's been fortunate to have a lot of weapons around him. 2 of them are missing right now, and he's facing a little bit of adversity, and he seems to be having a tougher time with it, right?
Yeah.
You see that in the last 2 games when he's playing from behind. Maybe he's panicking a little bit. He's not used to that situation, so it's a growing experience for him. He's got to get used to that and play like he plays when they're ahead, when they're behind, and hope for the best.
Right. I'll say this. I will give props to the Vikings, though. They have the 31st graded pass rush defense. They actually I would not say that the Vikings offensive line is all that because according to PFF, at least the pass blocking is number 3. The run blocking, apparently I'm wrong. They actually have a really great offensive line. But the fact that what we've seen without Trent Williams and have this offensive line decline as fast as it did with the 49ers from being a top 3 to now middle of the road, if even that, and you take out Trent Williams, and what does this become? This becomes a pretty bad offensive line. Brock Purdy got pressured slightly more than Kirk Cousins did. Then that's where he threw his 2 interceptions. He got pressured on 9 of his pass attempts. He had 6 completions for 68 yards, and he had no touchdowns, 2 picks. So I'm going to say this right now. I talked about it last season when people were comparing Brock Purdy to like Tom Brady and Kurt Warner. I said, slow your roll. This kid's played in like 5 games. He's on one of the best teams in the NFL, if not the deepest team. We got to chill. We got to wait to see if stuff hits the fan. Can he step up and perform? And I think these past 2 weeks against a not great defense that the Vikings have, and albeit the Browns have a very good defense, although Gardner Minshew just dropped 36 points on them. So I don't know how you want to compare those 2 defenses. However, when stuff hits the fan, we need to see Brock Purdy perform. And now we're exactly seeing that Brock Purdy isn't as great of a quarterback as people were thinking. Maybe we overestimated him because of the fact he has Deebo and CMC and George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. Ray McLeod is a valuable asset to that team. You have Trent Williams. Yeah, he has so many. That team has so many pieces that I think it would be easy for a lot of quarterbacks to be successful. And Brock Purdy right now, at least in the past 2 games, he's looked pretty bad. And I think that's fine to say because yes, he is a young quarterback, but he didn't perform. We have to see it how it is.
I'd say a couple more things on the Vikings side. I said more about them. Their resilience. They played without Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
They adjusted their game plan, threw a lot more to Hawkinson. He had 11 catches. Kirk Cousins had almost 400 yards passing.
Yeah.
So I think they stepped up in this game. They knew it was a must-win, and they came through.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I'd say about the 49ers, the defense didn't really come up, play like it has in the past few games, right?
Fair.
It's not the 49ers. I mean, the Vikings don't have the greatest offensive line out there, huh? So how come the 49ers let them march up and down the field like they did?
That is a great question.
I don't. What'd you think about the 49ers defense?
I was surprised at the fact that it really. I think Kirk Cousins handled the pressure much better than Brock Purdy did. He got the ball out quick. That's a big thing. And I'll say this: Kirk Cousins may be one of the worst primetime quarterbacks. Daniel Jones, I think, is slightly worse. He's the 1-12 record in primetime. Daniel Jones is. Kirk Cousins is slightly better. This was a phenomenal game. He showed up. He stepped up in this game, and when his team needed him to perform, he performed.
Weapon.
And yeah, he didn't have Justin Jefferson, which honestly, both teams didn't have their best weapon on offense.
Yeah.
I would say the 49ers run game is significantly better. Christian McCaffrey or Alexander Madison? Who would you rather have? Seriously.
I think McCaffrey.
George Kittle or T.J. Hawkinson? Which one would you rather have? You would rather have Hawkinson?
Yeah.
Interesting.
You know what? He wasn't he on the Patriots initially?
T.J. Hawkinson? No.
Yeah, I thought he was drafted by the Patriots.
No.
Are you sure?
I'll look it up for you right now, but I do not think T.J. Hawkinson was drafted by the New England Patriots. No, Detroit Lions. Was it?
Oh, really?
In the 2019 draft.
Hey, the Patriots had somebody with a name similar to that. I guess I'm wrong on that one. Sorry.
Speaking about Kirk Cousins, on third down, right? Third down, a crucial down. It's either you punt or you continue your drive. Kirk Cousins against the 49ers, against this defense, 61% third down percentage. So we went 8 of 13 on third down, 9 of 12 completion percentage. What percentage? I can't do quick math. That's 75% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a 156.3 passer rating. The highest you could possibly have is 158.3. So he was 2 ticks off of being perfect on third down. So this defense really didn't stop Kirk Cousins. Like you said, he had nearly 400 yards passing.
San Francisco's defense has been really good this year.
Right.
They weren't so good last week, and they weren't so good this week.
I would say last week you hold the Browns to 19 points. Although P.J. Walker, drove them up the field, allowed them to score, and then Brock Purdy late in the game couldn't come through. Those interceptions though, to have 2 interceptions in a 5-minute span, that kills you. Now, are we gonna blame this to pressure and being a young quarterback? Here's the thing. With a lot of quarterbacks in Brock Purdy's position, second year, technically this is he's played 5 regular season games last season. Now we're through 7. He's not even really through a full season yet of his career. However, because of the 2 playoff wins, because he was this close if he was healthy to potentially making the Super Bowl, because we give him the Kurt Warner and the Tom Brady comparison, and Steve Young saying he has some of the intangibles of a Patrick Mahomes, I think we are allowed to put a big spotlight on this kid and say, yeah, this is not a good performance. I mean,
I'll say this, as I've said with many other players.
Small sample size.
Exactly right. 2 games.
When you get compared to 2 Hall of Famers, one that's the greatest quarterback of all time, and one that had maybe the greatest offense in a season in NFL history, I say there's a massive spotlight on you, and you need to perform when you're called. When your number is called, you got to perform. But the question we always had was, he's never really been trailing because his team is so good. They get out to an early lead, and they just hold it. When are we going to see when Brock Purdy and this team cannot, have this lead, and they need to come back? And basically throughout this entire game, the Vikings had the lead. So we had to see Brock Purdy step in, make the throws, make the big-time plays. Okay, and in this game, he couldn't.
Last week against the Browns, the missed field goal beat him.
There wasn't. Yeah,
I mean, they could have won the game with a made field goal, and then nobody would have said it was a big deal of how he played in the game last week because they would have won.
Fair.
This week, they lost, and I agree that last interception sealed their fate. So we'll see what happens next week.
The 49ers next week, they go up against the Cincinnati Bengals. That's going to be a phenomenal game. Joe Burrow having his first, I would say, real competition. I mean, the Seahawks he played a week or 2 ago. That was an interesting game. I think this game shows, are the Bengals primed now to make another deep playoff run? If the 49ers just wipe them off the face of the earth, then we know they may be there, but they're not, up to the standard that the rest of the NFL, the rest of the AFC at least is. If you're talking about the Bills just had a bad loss. We'll talk about that next. But the Ravens or the Chiefs. So we'll have to wait and see. But not a good loss for the 49ers and for Brock Purdy. But you know what? I think the spotlight's only going to get brighter if we keep, questioning if Brock Purdy really is, the long-term solution to quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. All right, let's get into our next topic. What a shocker. The Patriots defeated the Buffalo Bills. Not only that, Mac Jones had his second career game-winning drive. Not only that, he was actually the reason why they won the game. It wasn't a defensive turnover. It wasn't anything like this. It was Mac Jones playing his heart out. Also, Bill Belichick gets his 300th regular season win, one of only 3 coaches in NFL history to get 300-plus wins. And the game ended on a Mac Jones 75-yard touchdown drive. He completed 6 of 7 passes in the final drive, the last one being a 1-yard touchdown to Mike Gesicki. So I want to know, how surprised were you that the Patriots were able to upset the Buffalo Bills and end their 3-game losing streak?
Yeah, I was surprised because I picked against them for the first time this year. I said they weren't going to win, and what do you say? They went out and won the game. So maybe I should pick against them for the rest of the year, and they'll win every game. That might be the next best solution for me. But I think that's a confidence builder for the Patriots. I mean, given the last 3 games, they lost all 3, and the 2 of the 3 they lost by terrible scores, only scoring 3 points in 2 games, really bad. They get 29 points in this game. They're moving the ball up and down the field. Mac Jones, 25 of 30, 272 yards, had a really good day. The running game actually got going a little bit. They actually ran the ball and gained some yards. It was actually the play action. They could actually use some play action and keep the Bills off guard a little bit. So it's a real good game for the Patriots and gives them some confidence. Unfortunately, they're going down to Miami next week, and they never win down there. But who knows? Maybe I'll pick against them, and maybe they'll win.
You say unfortunately, however, the Patriots were actually able to potentially win that game if, that first down that may or may not have been a first down, if that play continued, because there was an opportunity for the Patriots to go out and actually win that game. The first 2 games were very, very winnable. I think we could state the obvious here. The offensive line of the Patriots has improved drastically in the past 2 weeks. The Raiders, we saw inklings of what could be of this offensive line. Mac Jones getting pressured on, I believe, 19% of his dropbacks, which easily was one of the lowest he's ever had under pressure-wise. In this game, sort of the same thing. He was pressured on 21%. I asked you right after the game, percentage of dropbacks he was pressured on. You said, I think, 30%. I said 22%. It was 21.2%, so even better than we both thought that it was. There was one throw on that final drive that I think was the biggest throw and something that we saw in Mac Jones' rookie year. There were a lot of things we saw in this game that looked like that rookie year that I kept hoping and praying that we will see again. And I think we saw it in the past 2 games. At least against the Raiders, we saw that he was stepping into his throws, trying to make that big-time throw. He threw maybe the most beautiful deep ball to Devontae Parker. He couldn't reel it in. In this game, the biggest thing, the biggest thing that I tried to say was, give him some time to throw. These receivers are not speed receivers. They can't get open at the flick of a light switch. You got to give them time so the play could develop and they can at least try to get open. And in this game, that's exactly what happened. Not only that, Mac Jones was dealing on the field. This was easily the biggest throw of the game. On that final drive, it was a 3rd and 8. Mac Jones sends pressure behind him, gets the ball out milliseconds before he's about to get basically killed from behind. And I think, honestly, if he would have gotten hit, that would have been a fumble, and the game would have easily been over at that point. But this was a beautiful throw straight up the middle on a 3rd and 8 to get him into field goal range. I think that was easily the biggest play. But he had a number of throws like that. He had a beautiful touch pass to Pharaoh Brown. The defender was holding one of his hands in the process of that. It wasn't called. The touchdown pass at the very end of that game was a beautiful throw, laser throw. This offense looked really, really good. And I think, honestly, what did I say last week? I said the Lions start off 1-6, and we're this close to making the playoffs. The Patriots now are 2-5. Yes, they do head to Miami, but after that, I believe they play the Colts and the Commanders. So there is a little bit of hope for the Patriots to build up some momentum here, and especially after a bad loss against the Eagles that the Dolphins just have, and the Patriots are on the rise. The Dolphins seem to be on a little bit of a fall. I think there's a decent shot the Patriots have a chance against the Dolphins.
Yeah, well, the Patriots, they play the good teams quite well. They played the Eagles well, right? They had a chance to win that game. They played the Dolphins well. They had a chance to win that game. They got blown out by the Saints, right? The Saints aren't very good. The Saints have lost both games since they played the Patriots.
It's been pretty bad.
And they got beat by the Raiders, and the Raiders lost last week too.
Against Tyler Badgen, I think his name is.
Yeah, right. It's I don't know. They're kind of it's unknown quantity here a little bit about how they're going to play every week. So we'll wait and see. I'm hoping for the best.
I will say this though, without Josh Uche, without Matt Judon, the Patriots actually got a decent amount of pressure on Josh Allen. It just didn't look like that because Josh Allen is so mobile and athletic. He was able to move out of the pocket to try to make plays. There were a few throws. A wide open, it was like a streak route to Stephon Diggs, which was too far ahead of him. That easily would have been a touchdown in that play. There was one where Josh Allen moves to the right. He throws it to Stephon Diggs. It's too far out of bounds, or it was too far in front of him. There were plays here that Josh Allen could have had to extend drives or to maybe even score, and he couldn't finish the job.
They got lucky, the Patriots, on a couple of those throws by Josh Allen. He just missed the throws.
But I will say this. I would contest that there may be one or two games that are better or at least even. But would you argue that this may have been Mac Jones' best game of his career in the NFL?
He had a pretty good game against the Vikings last year, right? That was a really good game. He had a great game against Tampa Bay in his rookie year.
Outplayed Brady, yeah.
Outplayed Brady. But, yeah, I think in terms of where he is in his career right now, this is a real confidence builder for him. And hopefully the offensive line can continue to give him a little more time to throw the ball because he's shown he can be very effective, 25 of 30 in this last game.
Right.
6 plays of more than 15 yards. That's pretty good.
That's massive. Also, third down. The Patriots were better than the Bills on third down. They had 44.4%. The Bills at 41.7%. Belichick said there was questions several times in post-game press conferences. Why didn't you go for it on a 4th and 2? Why didn't you go for it on the 4th and 1? Why didn't you go for it late in the game on a 4th down to try to get something going? Belichick said, we're not going to go for it on 4th down unless we get better at 3rd down. Well, you outplayed the Buffalo Bills, which I believe going to this game was the 3rd best team on 3rd down. You stopped them. You did better than them. You have actually, surprisingly, a complete turnaround from last year. Your red zone offense is one of the best in the league. I believe it's number 6, if I'm not mistaken. One of the best red zone offenses. Last season, you could barely get into the red zone. When you did get into the red zone, you couldn't score. Mm-hmm. So I think this season...
They played more conservatively in this game, right? They kicked the field goals when last couple of weeks they were going for it on 4th down.
Fair.
So I think, and that was a smart move, right? Because they won by 5 points, right?
Yeah.
They had 2 field goals in the game, so so that was. I think they made the right choices there. It's a long game. When you got the chance to get points, don't risk it. Take the points.
I will say this, and me and you were both, on the verge of, gouging our eyes out. Can the Patriots secure a tackle?
Oh.
Juwan Bentley, 5 missed tackles. Kyle Duggar, Miles Bryant, and Adrian Phillips, 2 missed tackles each. And then J.C. Jackson had 1, which ended up being a Stephon Diggs touchdown. But seriously, you got 12 missed tackles. Juwan Bentley, James Cook was open on a left side of the field pass. He was wide open. Juwan Bentley is horrible in coverage, and yet you keep him in coverage. Miles Bryant and Kyle Duggar each. There was one in the open field. I think it was against Stephon Diggs, where you were like the only guy in his way, and you completely whiffed the tackle. You got like both hands wrapped around him and couldn't secure the tackle. J.C. Jackson, like we just said, he broken tackle, missed tackle against Stephon Diggs at like the 2-yard line, and Diggs just walked in at that point. The Patriots, tackling-wise, they were one of the best in the league now. They had a pretty steep drop after this week. So securing tackles, if you secure tackles, you may actually be, the Bills may have been a little bit worse on 3rd down. You may or may not have gotten that extra touchdown the Bills got because of the Stephon Diggs broken tackle touchdown.
Yeah, the other thing is if they did tackle him there and then they took 2 or 3 plays and did get a touchdown, the amount of time left would have been very much less. Right,
yeah,
and then the Patriots wouldn't have had enough time to go down the field 75 yards for the score.
Right.
So, maybe it worked out okay.
Maybe, but still, though, having 12 missed tackles and 5 coming from one of your better at least pass rushing linebackers is not a positive sign to say the least. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, the Eagles took down Tua and the Miami Dolphins. Are the Dolphins not as good as people are thinking? And also, are the Knicks about to rock the NBA world with a potential blockbuster trade as the season gets set to start tonight? And finally, we answer your questions that you sent on Spotify right after this.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. and find out who they're cooking with, where they're finding inner balance, and why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic. I think there should be more conversation about this because I do think this should be a very, very hard-hitting topic in the state of New York because of the fact that Tyrod Taylor won his first game as a starter for the New York Giants in a 14-7 win over the Washington Commanders. The Giants' defense was suffocating, forcing one interception, and also sacking Sam Howell a total of 6 times. Tyrod Taylor dinking and dunking his way to victory. Efficient in the offensive side. Jalen Hyatt getting massive receptions and massive targets. The offense looking much better, even though the points may not be there. The efficiency is definitely up there. So I want to know, do you think Brian Daboll should consider keeping Tyrod Taylor as the starting quarterback for the New York Football Giants?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. At least one more game. Give Daniel Jones another week to heal up from being totally pounded the first 5 weeks of the season. So I think that, yeah, I think they will go with Taylor. He's gotten them off to a little bit better start now with his play. And, the Commanders aren't the greatest team out there, that's for sure. Their offensive line is one of the worst, right? I mean, poor Sam Howell, he's gotten creamed this season. He's the leader in getting sacked, I believe, right?
Yep.
And despite that, he's played pretty well. He could be somebody, if they get him decent offensive line, he has a few seconds back there to throw. He may be pretty good because he's done pretty well, even though he's been getting sacked a lot. So, yeah, I think that the Giants will start Tyrod Taylor against the Jets, and I think the Jets are going to win that game, but we don't pick our games till Friday. So,
I mean, I'm not even just talking about this game. I'm talking about, like, the season. I mean, the offense, the changes. I have the numbers here. So Jalen Hyatt is supposed to be like that rookie speedster that people were hoping for, right? They were begging for a wide receiver, and unfortunately, what is it? The Chargers, the Seahawks, and the Ravens all were picks ahead of them. They all drafted wide receivers. Quentin Johnson, Jordan Addison, and Jackson Smith and Jigbo all got picked right before the Giants did. The Giants ended up drafting, I believe his name is Deontay Banks. But in the first 5 games of Jalen Hyatt's NFL career, 5 targets, 4 catches, 99 yards. In the last 2 games, 9 targets, 5 catches, 96 yards. So he's getting more targets, more catches, and 3 less yards. Tyrod Taylor's looking for him. He's trying to find him to get him open. Tyrod Taylor, so far this season, he's started 2 games of the year. This was his first win. Probably, maybe, you could argue it in the comments, should have won against the Buffalo Bills if it wasn't for, a non-defensive holding call or a pass interference call in the end zone on the very, very last play. So far this season, Tyrod Taylor has more big-time throws, fewer turnover-worthy plays, less time to throw. We talked about the offensive line being horrible for Daniel Jones. Tyrod Taylor has less time to throw. A higher average depth of target. He's finding receivers deep down the field. He evades more sacks. The offensive line, I agree, is bad, but he actually has a lower pressure to sack percentage. So he's actually able to avoid the sacks. So he's more mobile. He's more experienced. He can read defenses maybe a little bit better. So I think, depending on how you want to go with this season, if you still care about winning, and I think, obviously, anyone on a press conference or talking to media will obviously talk about whether or not they want to win games. But at some point, you got to call it. Are we in the quarterback sweepstakes? Are we going to get a top 5, top 10 pick? Should we even be looking for that? I mean, we take a look at the Panthers. Are they trying to be terrible? They still don't have a win yet. And they got the first overall pick last year and got Bryce Young. They traded up for that. So, I mean, I'm going to say this right now. If the Giants still care about winning And based on the way the Commanders' season is going thus far, yes, they have one more win than the Commanders do, but having this win against them is huge if you have an opportunity to surpass them and potentially give yourself a playoff berth. If you still care about that, honestly, Tyrod Taylor gives you the better option to win games. He gives you the more stable, more efficient, more effective offense. Daniel Jones, I think he has nearly 20% of his pressures are due to him just either staying in the pocket too long, running into the line, doing something. He's responsible for 20% of his pressures. I think Tyrod Taylor's responsible for 7%. So he's evading sacks. He's not getting unnecessary pressures. He's not taking unnecessary sacks. He's getting the ball out very, very quickly. And yes, while we talk about offensive lines, they have the same offensive line. Andrew Thomas is dealing with injury. They've had a makeshift offensive line all year. And for some reason, could it be his experience? Could it be whatever? Tyrod Taylor has been able to execute this offense much better than a guy worth $160 million in Daniel Jones, who signed that deal just this past offseason.
Did have Saquon Barkley in the game the last 2 games, right?
He did have him in, yeah.
Yeah, that helped some.
But even early in the year, Saquon was, largely rendered ineffective.
Do you think the uniform helped them at all? They were playing with a throwback uniform.
No, I don't think so. I mean,
Phil Simms said that sometimes has a factor. If you're dressed up in a nice new uniform and it looks great, then you play better.
Those throwbacks are very nice. I will give the Giants that. They have a very, very nice.
Do you like the
giant
on the Giants on the side of the helmet rather than the NY?
They need to get the colors the same. They have a dark navy helmet and a light blue jersey.
Yeah.
You got to coordinate that a little bit better.
Yeah.
I will give props to one side of the ball that, in the beginning of the season was, I would say underwhelming. That Giants defense tore through the Commanders. 1 of 15 on third down the Commanders were. 1 of 15. The Giants, on the other hand, 5 of 16. Not much better, but better nonetheless.
The Giants defense is playing better.
Absolutely.
Although maybe they're just
6 times.
maybe they aren't playing against teams that are any good. Yeah,
that could be the case. I think the number is if this continues, if this trend continues with Sam Howell getting sacked X amount of times per game, I think by the end of the year he's projected to have like 96 sacks. I think the record's 68.
He may not be alive to get to that number.
Andrew Luck retired early. We presume because he had no offensive line and he was getting sacked and injured all the time. If Sam Howell's going to get sacked 96 times, Andrew Luck had a very short career. I would say cut that in half, and that will be Sam Howell's career if you keep letting this happen. We talk about Daniel Jones have a bad offensive line. Sam Howell nearly doubles the sacks. It's 20. I guess not nearly doubles, but it's about, I want to say 35, 40% higher, 28 to 40. Daniel Jones sacks to Sam Howell's, and yet Sam Howell's been able to perform a little bit better than Daniel Jones has. So, for me, personally, depending on how you want the season to turn out, I would say stick with Tyrod Taylor. If you care about winning.
I don't think they've given up on winning.
Care about winning.
They haven't given up on winning. I mean, they've got 2 wins now, right?
They do have 2 wins.
And the season's still a lot of games to play.
There is.
We only played 7 games so far, right?
We're going to week 8.
7 games. And if the Giants played 7, or they had a bye?
No,
they played 7.
They played 7.
So, they still have 10 games to go. So,
I'm going to give a little,
more than half of the season.
I'm going to give a potential spoiler to Friday's episode when I do my Harvey Hot Hand. I'm really tempted to put a what if situation. If Tyrod Taylor plays, I may take the Giants +3. If Daniel Jones is healthy enough to play, I'm obviously going to pick the Jets -3. I was thinking about that, yesterday. I was like, if Tyrod Taylor plays, this offense has looked much better. But also Zach Wilson obviously has been playing better. I very well may decide if Tyrod Taylor plays in this game on Sunday, I probably will pick the Giants +3. But if Daniel Jones in there, give me the Jets -3 all the way on the road. So
I think the Jets are going to win.
Just outright, you don't care about the quarterback?
The defense is so good, and I think Zach Wilson is playing not to lose the games now. He's not making the kinds of mistakes he was making earlier on.
I would say that they're playing to win. I would think before when, Zach Wilson was, horrible and people were calling for his job, and rightfully so, I thought that's when he was playing not to lose. He was playing conservative, trying not to make that big mistake, and he was overcompensating.
Yeah.
But, interesting. Very, very interesting. I want to talk about this game, though, because this was a shocker. This actually was my last pick in my Harvey Hot Hand. And by the way, I went 1 for 4 again this week. Not a great trend for my Harvey Hot Hand, at least. But the Eagles dominated. Won by, 14 points against the Miami Dolphins. Shut them down completely. And this is what, this little intro for it. So the Dolphins had no answer for anything the Philadelphia Eagles had coming their way. Jalen Hurts had 300 total yards and 3 total touchdowns, while Tua Tagovailoa had only 213 total yards and 1 touchdown. We saw what the Dolphins have done all year. One of the best offenses. They were like one of the only teams to ever have 15 rushing and 15 passing touchdowns through like 5 or 6 games. This offense is on pace to break the greatest show on turf and be one of the best offenses in NFL history. However, up against 2 very, very good opponents in the Buffalo Bills and in the Philadelphia Eagles, this team was basically rendered useless. So I want to know, did the Dolphins get exposed this week against the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah. The Eagles don't have as good a defense as they had last year, but they certainly stepped up in this game. I mean, Tua only had 216 yards passing, and the receiving, the best was Tyreek Hill, and he had 88 yards, so on 11 catches, but 1 TD. So, given that they have the highest powered offense in the league, to hold them to 244 total yards when the Eagles had 355 yards, I say it calls them into question a little bit. Yeah.
I would say this. I was questioning the Philadelphia Eagles defense. By the way, they went out and got Byard, I believe that's the name, from the Titans to bolster that defensive back situation that the Eagles were sort of lacking on after losing C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They did bring back Darius Slay, but just to reinforce that defensive secondary, they brought in Kevin Byard, the safety from the Titans. But I'll say this, round of applause for the Philadelphia Eagles. They still had that brotherly shove or the tush push or whatever you want to call it. Probably the most unstoppable play right now. It works beautifully. For the Eagles, at least, it's an unstoppable play. For every other NFL team, they seem to, not be as good at it. Maybe it's the offensive line. Maybe it's the philosophy. Maybe it's just Jalen Hurts being able just to power through his offensive line that does a good enough job blocking so he can find those openings and maybe, help from A.J. Brown or any one of his wide receivers at tight end, give him a little bit of a shove, helps out. But this was a great performance. I mean, Jalen Hurts, we saw him on a run play. He was limping his way to the sideline, able to get a first down. He's clearly not 100%, yet he's still able to perform when it matters most. Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, we understand. I showed it on one of the Friday fun days we had, right before the season started. That offensive line in practice looked horrible. The Dolphins' defense was shredding right through it in one of the practices. We saw that again in this game against the Eagles. The Eagles tore through that Miami Dolphins offensive line. They couldn't run the ball very effectively. They did have, 3.8 yards a carry, but it didn't matter when you're down by, 10, 12, 14 points. You shouldn't run the ball. You got to leave it up to your playmakers. Jalen Waddle didn't have a great game. 6 targets, 6 catches, 63 yards. Tyreek Hill was targeted 15 times, 11 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown. But in large part, though, this Eagles defense came up with a big interception. Jalen Hurts playing injured, but still able to be as effective as he was, 300 total yards. They ran the ball 34 times. We talked about this before, at least I did, was what's their identity? I think they're going to be, at least what we've been seeing, they've been trying to run the ball a lot of times per game. Like 34 times in this game compared to 12 from Miami. Shows you that this team wants to be a run-heavy team and then be able to drop back and throw 30 times, have that balanced system after being able to run the ball effectively enough. DeAndre Swift, we saw him against, I believe it was the Vikings, ran for like 200 yards. So if you have a running back like that, able to create that type of production, he had 4.1 yards a carry in this game. You're able to sit back and play action, allow your wide receivers to get open because play action allows those linebackers to second-guess it and not drop straight back into coverage, but maybe hesitate for a half second, and that could get A.J. Brown or Dallas Goedert or Devontae Smith to get on top of those linebackers and have Jalen Hurts hit them. So I'll give them this. The defense stepped up in this game. It's sort of different that we've seen throughout the year, not as dominant and dynamic as it has been in previous years, especially last year. They were going for the sack record. They played very well, forced Tua to get an interception. They also forced one fumble as well. They did get recovered, but able to force one nonetheless. Jalen Hurts, I think that's going to be a big question here. He didn't look good, at least health-wise. He was limping. He didn't look very comfortable. Came out today. He was very uncomfortable. What's the injury going to be like? Is it going to sideline him for a game or two? I think that's going to be important. I think that's what we need to hone in on now. Is Jalen Hurts' health a potential issue for now a 6-1 Eagles team?
I don't know. We'll see.
Because if he's limping on a QB scramble,
He got hurt last year. He was
did get
hurt a few games.
and missed a couple games. Gardner Minshew came in. They actually had a great game against the Cowboys. Each put up 40 points each, and then you go up against the next game against the Saints. And if I'm not mistaken, they don't even get past half. They don't even get past midfield. So I think it's going to be interesting to see exactly what this Eagles team looks like if Jalen Hurts is maybe not even at 80%.
Yeah.
If the injury progresses.
Well, I'd say they just keep him in the pocket, have him drop back, and throw it to A.J. Brown because he's an all-pro.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw him get frustrated. You know what I'm saying? Target me. I'm going to be open. Yeah, well, you got
He had 10 catches, 137 yards. So
15 targets, 10 catches,
he
$137.
should have been happy about that. He had a
I would agree.
TD, too.
Now, A.J. Brown, I think he did something a couple of receivers done in history. He's like 5 games in a row of like 110 yards, something like that or more. So what he's doing production-wise, I mean, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, which one is going to be on top at the end of the year? A.J. Brown, I think, is one of the... And someone in our comments section mentioned that. A.J. Brown, one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL.
I think so.
Because we talk about Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson. A.J. Brown is normally in the second tier of wide receivers, I would think. Now this season we're saying, no. He's in that first category of dominant receivers in the league. So I think it's good that A.J. Brown is getting the spotlight that I think he deserves.
One other thing I'd say about this game, the Eagles throwback uniform, that's the one they should always wear.
Kelly Green?
It's a beautiful uniform.
I like the logo.
I love the Eagles logo on the shirt. I like the way the black around the number, and I like that green color and the helmet with the silver wings on it. Very nice uniform. I think they should stick with that.
I think it's a little too... The logo, they would need to update the resolution on that. That's a little too 80s for me.
Oh, yeah?
It's very, very vintage looking. So, I'll give it to you. It did look
I mean,
nice
the Eagles are one of the oldest teams in the NFL. I think they were one of the original teams. So they have vintage. They should look vintage, I think.
We're modern now. You think they should bring what's...
I'm not. As you can tell by looking at me. I'm not modern, Nate. I'm a throwback.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough. Let's get to our next topic because I find this very funny. So it came out, I think it was today or maybe yesterday, that the Knicks are now willing to give up a pretty decent, or I guess we're doing the... Okay, well, let's take it away. So I want to talk about this. So there's a report out today that says the Knicks will be willing to offer a package of 3 players among Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, Evan Fournier, and Mitchell Robinson, along with 2 or 3 first-round picks for one Joel Embiid, which is pretty fascinating because this is actually a topic that we did back in July because there was Joel Embiid liked a tweet, and now it's called X. I don't know if they're still called tweets or not. But he liked a tweet about a report that Obi Toppin got traded away to the Indiana Pacers. And we talked about that. Is Joel Embiid eyeing a potential move to the Knicks? And this was the trade that I thought made a lot of sense. Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier, Julius Randle, and 3 first-round picks straight up for Joel Embiid. The potential trade offer is pretty close to mine. Now, in the actual, in the clip, in the video, I did say, if I were to alter this a little bit, I would either add R.J. Barrett or swap out Quentin Grimes for R.J. Barrett. Lo and behold, Evan Fournier, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, 3 of those 4 players in a package, along with 2 to 3 first-round picks for Joel Embiid. So mine was pretty close to what now the Knicks are reportedly willing to give up.
Yeah.
Well, no. Is there any chance in the world Joel Embiid suits up for the New York Knicks anytime soon?
This year?
Anytime soon. Could be this year, trade deadline.
I don't know. I would say probably not right now. I mean, the season's about to start. But the fact that James Harden is holding out, not playing at all, and Embiid is there now with just Tyrese Maxey as his number 2 guy, right? The 2 best players on the team.
Yeah.
I mean, he could go to the Knicks and he would have Jalen Brunson, all right, and he would also have Quickly there too. So that those three could be form a stronger force than what he's got now. So, and I think he's going to be dissolute if they start out poorly and he's unhappy. Then he's going to be exercising his right to leave, and that's coming up. What? Not this year, but next. When would he have the right to walk away?
Well, I'll bring it for you right now. I will say this though, the inklings we saw. I forget where he was, but he talked in a post or not post game, but in a press conference where he said that he wants to win a championship. He may do it in Philly or anywhere else. So he's sort of been maybe trying to make this work, and especially with James Harden literally 2 feet out the door. He's an unrestricted free agent in 2027. So
27, so it's a long way off.
Very, very long way from.
It's a long way off. So I doubt it's going to happen.
I think it. I mean, the question isn't whether the Knicks are interested, because if the report is that they're willing to give up 3 of 4 players and 3 first-round picks, 2 or 3 first-round picks, that's coming from somewhere. If that's now being reported on, but the question is whether or not the 76ers will go for that. The Clippers, that's who the James Harden wanted to go to. The Clippers are interested, and Daryl Morey says, sure, we'll talk to the Clippers. They wanted, or Daryl Morey wanted Terrence Mann and 2 first-round picks. The Clippers said, no, we're not willing to give you that. And so now James Harden and that 76er situation right now is in limbo with James Harden not showing up to anything. Will probably 99.9 infinite 9% chance to be fined for every game he misses. Ben Simmons had the same thing. I think he got fined like $19 million for not showing up. Yeah, no, it's a lot
unbelievable.
Of money. But we can see a situation where James Harden once again forces his way out of Philly, just like he forced his way out of Brooklyn, forced his way out of Houston. So we're basically seeing that situation now. And if it's really up to Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, why can't Joel Embiid be like, yo, we're not winning with this team. We may be a playoff team, but we'll be maybe a first-round exit at the very best. He's never made a conference finals, especially without James Harden. I don't think they can make a conference finals. So now Joel Embiid is kind of in what Giannis was threatening this offseason of, you got to dedicate the same amount of time I do. You got to get me a player that I could play with, or else I'll be gone. Except the situation is, Joel Embiid signed a 4-year, $213 million contract recently, so he's contractually bound for the next 4 seasons. Now it's going to be maybe we shift from a Giannis situation now to a Damian Lillard situation where you sign an extension, and even a Kevin Durant situation. You sign an extension, and now you're basically going to force your way out. Now, obviously, Joel Embiid and people around him will obviously say he wants to stay in Philly. But the fact that this is now not only the first time, but the second, potentially third time we heard about Joel Embiid either leaving or being interested in the New York Knicks, or at least rumors through Twitter about New York Knicks situations, I think there's a decent shot that maybe not that exact trade, but a trade nonetheless to another team potentially could come out with this. And people saying, no, you can't trade Julius Randle. Julius Randle is one of the best assets the Knicks have. He may be the second best asset they have. He has to go. There was a report out not too long ago that the Knicks are asking for I think 3 first-round picks for Mitchell Robinson. That's never going to happen. Never going to happen for a guy that averages a triple single. Now, he has, 8 rebounds a year, or 8 rebounds a season, 8 points a game.
He's mostly a defensive guy.
He's a defensive guy and a rebounding guy.
I would say that if a trade was going to happen between the Sixers and the Knicks, that Mitchell Robinson would have to be part of it.
But then the question is, then your big man would be Joel Embiid and Hartenstein. Those would be your 2. If you're going to trade both Randle and
right now
Robinson.
It's Mitchell Robinson and Hartenstein. So.
Oh, and Julius Randle, too. He's not going.
No, I'm talking the centers.
Oh, so strictly
the
centers,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, they got Embiid. They have to replace him with another center. They have to have a center.
Right.
I think it would have to be Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, and R.J. Barrett, and 3 first-round picks if they wanted to have a chance to get him.
But that's not a bad trade package. Now the Knicks, I think, have 8 first-round picks that they have to play with. So to give up 3, you may need to add 1 more if those are your best
those
trade
picks
assets.
may not be too valuable, Nate, because the the Knicks probably would play pretty well with that lineup with the Embiid in there.
I agree. I completely agree. Now, Evan Fournier would just strictly be a contract dump. He has basically no production. He doesn't do much. He's frustrated with the Knicks not giving him playing time. But albeit, he hasn't played that well when he was out there. He had an okay first season with the Knicks. But outside of that, he hasn't played that well. Julius Randle, he's had his hot and cold streaks. Playoffs, he doesn't
Generally
show
plays
up.
pretty well during the season.
The past two seasons, the 2 years ago, he had very, very good games, but they were pretty infrequent. Last season, he would have the same big games, but they were more frequent. Mitchell Robinson, defensive guy, rebounding guy. He complains about his offensive production. That's not his forte. I was at Game 5. We had the chant, "Let's go Mitch," for him to make 5 free throws. I don't even think it was 5, but late in the game, he was missing a bunch throughout the game. Now he makes a bunch of free throws in a row to seal the deal in Game 5. The entire crowd was chanting, "Let's go Mitch." That's not really good. That's not a valuable guy who's complaining about his offensive production. Make your free throws at least. They're free points. Same thing with Giannis, though. And then what? RJ Barrett. Shooting percentage-wise, I don't love. Free throw percentage-wise, we didn't need to shout, "Let's go RJ." Actually, we did. But he's a slightly better free throw shooter than Mitchell Robinson, albeit I would say he's a young, valuable asset to a team looking for his skill set. But if this is probably the best thing outside of Jalen Brunson that the Knicks would be willing to give up or even should give up. To have to have Joel Embiid and Jalen Brunson as a 1-2 tag combo, I'd say that's pretty good. I would say the Knicks would definitely be a playoff team with that duo. Then you also have Josh Hart, who signed an extension. Great defensive player, great rebounder. Let's say out of those three, or out of those four technically, which one do you think the Knicks wouldn't include in a trade? If the Sixers said, "Sure, we'll take X, Y, and Z," who would not be part of that trade player-wise?
Fournier. The Sixers are going to want the best three players. The best three players of the Knicks, except for Brunson, which they're unwilling to give up.
Right.
So those are the three guys.
I would say the Knicks would campaign to try to get Fournier off for contract purposes, but I think you'd be right because he doesn't bring a skill set that the Sixers would be.
And they're going to want
for.
3 first-rounders, not 2.
I would say if you have to include Fournier, and you would have to save, you'd probably honestly save Mitchell Robinson. But if you were to include Fournier in the trade, you would need to add another first-round pick. I would say you go 4 first-round picks, do Fournier, Barrett, and Randall. I would say that.
I don't think they'll do that because they need a center. If they give up Embiid, they got to have somebody that's going to play center.
Well,
Mitchell Robinson's a quality defensive guy, so it's not like you're throwing in the towel to get in.
Randall, he's a big power forward. He could play center. He's a big man.
Yeah, but I don't think that's his. He's not going to want to do that.
Right? No, Mitchell Robinson's complaining about offensive production, and if you have trouble making free throws, I don't know about offensive production, truthfully, but that's beside the fact. Let's get into our next topic, which, you saw a little bit earlier. So, the Buffalo Bills going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Thursday night, in Thursday Night Football on Prime Video. The Bills are going to bounce back against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after losing a pretty bad game to the New England Patriots. Josh Allen trying to play a little bit nicer, and the Bills are trying not to get off to such slow starts that they've had over the past few games. The Buccaneers trying to get back on the winning column. They only have won 1 out of their last 4 games, gone 1-4 in their past 4 games. They're trying to get something going with new quarterback Baker Mayfield, which, it looks like you poke me with the stick about Baker Mayfield not being a starting quarterback. The past few games, I'm going back to, being correct on that. They haven't looked too good on offense. So I want to know, I guess I'll start. Who wins, Bills or Bucks? My pick will be the Bills, and I'll actually take them to cover. They have a -8.5 point spread just like they did against the New England Patriots. But most good teams, I would say, if you get humiliated like the Bills did against the Patriots, the next game, you right the wrong. You dominate usually in the next game. And that's why I think the Bills go out and win 30-14. I don't trust that Bucs offensive line is question marks. Baker Mayfield decision-making, question marks. He has been better, although he does have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans to throw it to. I do think, though, in the end, Baker Mayfield makes a couple mistakes, doesn't look that good, and the Bills dominate, win by, 17 points. Bills win 30-14.
I will say that the Bills will also win, but I don't think they cover. And I think the score is going to be 24-20 because the Bucs have a good defense. The Bucks have a decent defense.
You're trusting that defense.
For this game, yeah. I think Baker Mayfield's playing a lot better. He's got some great receivers to throw to. Their team is much better this year, and Todd Bowles is a defensive guy. He has a very good defense playing out there. And the Bills have looked pretty. They've been sputtering. I mean, they have not played well the last 3 weeks, and they're playing at the Bucs, right? It says Bills versus Bucs. So
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that to be a closer game than the point spread shows.
I mean, I agree with you. The Bucs have had a better defense than they've had, last year at least. I'm sorry. It's Buccaneers at Bills. Bills are home.
Oh, the Buccaneers are at Bills. Well,
so then again, you're playing what? At Bills. I don't trust Baker. I agree. Bucs have a pretty good defense. The offensive line is okay. They still don't have a running game. Mm-hmm. It's Baker Mayfield at quarterback. I can't trust them.
I think the Bills are going to win, but I don't think they'll cover the 8.5.
Fair enough. All right, so we're going to do something that I did only once before, not with you. I believe it was a solo topic. You weren't there for that show, or solo show. You weren't there. Basically, if you click on one of the links, I believe it's one of the top links, maybe the second link on this video and on every video, you could actually send in your questions to the show, and we will answer them live on air. And we actually have a message. I did this before, but we actually have a message, and I'll play it for you right now.
Hey guys, absolutely love the show. Had a quick question. I want to start a show of something like that, something similar to that myself. So just a quick question. What kind of recording software do you use? And then also any other tips or tricks that you think that you could give to any inspiring up-and-comers? Like I said, love the show. Thanks.
We appreciate you, Tyler, for enjoying the show and watching the show, listening to the show.
Appreciate your support.
Yeah, absolutely. And also we hit 600 subscribers on YouTube recently. We thank you all for that.
Thank you.
It's a long process, and we appreciate your support every single day. Clips, if you watch the clips only, if you watch the shows, whatever you do, we thank you for supporting the show in any which way, liking the video, commenting, whatever. Even if you crap all over us in the comments section, though, we appreciate your input. So I'll start with answering the question because I am the one who records, streams everything else, so I'll answer the recording software situation. What I use to record is a application called Open Broadcast Software, or OBS, and I also use a special preset that you can find somewhere on the internet that you can actually make this screen yourself. You won't have the background of the topic bar, but the border around us, you'll have that. You'll have a logo section. You'll have a bunch of things that you could add that you can customize. The names that come up right now, that's something that you could also customize yourself. But the recording software uses Open Broadcast Studio. I edit the videos using Adobe Premiere Pro. The audio sometimes that you hear gets edited. Sometimes things change. I don't press record at the right time. That's edited by Adobe Audition. The graphics, which you saw that I screwed up on a couple times, right here, this is all made in Photoshop. So I use basically every Adobe, I use the Adobe Creative Cloud to do all the editing. Recording-wise, I use Open Broadcast Software. This is a Electro Voice RE320. That is a Rode Pod mic. We've swapped a couple mics. You've had this microphone. I've also had a Shure SM7B. Also, I have a Rodecaster Pro 2 mixer. You got a couple of compressors and everything like that. You don't need 99% of this stuff. But basically, that's how that's what I do to basically produce and edit and everything on the Harvey Hour. Now, I want to start with you. What advice would you give for someone, aspiring to make a podcast, whether it be sports, about anything else? What would your tip be for up-and-comers in this sort of scene?
Dedicated to it. I mean, the amount of work that you put in more than I do, but we put in quite a bit of work. We prepare for the show. We have our agenda. We have our each topic that we talk about before the show, and we look up the stats. Nate, you subscribe to several stat services, so we can give a little more in-depth commentary on some of the games and some of the players. I think the stats add a lot to it, and there's much more digital and metrics and things like that that support analysis these days, and also support the coaching and the strategy for all sports now. The data is a big thing. So we having access to that, I think, is really important. And then just going into it knowing you're going to make a commitment to it. We've done how many shows, Nate? 160
Over
shows?
160 shows.
160 shows. They're all out there for anybody to watch. They go back several years, and we do it twice a week, and you got to love it. And we love sports. So we watch a lot of sports, and we always have. Growing up, I always watched a lot of sports, and having the opportunity to do this with you, Nate, is great. I really enjoy it.
And I think that's honestly one of the biggest things is, well, of course, you always want to stay disciplined in what you do. Having a 2-show-a-week schedule, it may be difficult if you're just starting out by yourself. And that's actually, this show used to be called Fast Break. And I got burnt out very quickly because it was me trying to think of everything, getting the show produced, trying to do everything on the fly by myself. And then having you, I asked you to come on the show for one of the episodes, and it just worked. So you have that opportunity to start up a show, give your take, then pass it on, hear what someone else has to say, and you guys could have a conversation. So having someone else helps in that regard to not let you get burnt out. But I really think the biggest thing is, if you want to do any sort of podcast, whether it's talking about sports, crime shows, fashion, whatever the case may be, do something that you're passionate about. Because if you don't do something you're passionate about and you're forcing content that's not genuine, that you're not genuinely curious about, I don't think you'll grow because you won't care about it really that much. And I think people may call you out on it, that you're not that genuine about it. I mean, every take that we've given has been legit. I seriously think Mac Jones is a good quarterback. It's just you don't get screwed over by an offensive line or by bad coaching. That's something else. You think Belichick is still the greatest coach of all time. Now, that's up for debate, but you believe that. So,
well, they gave him an extension.
Right, yeah, secret extension. So I would say, do something you're passionate about. Talk about something you're passionate about. But also, I think it's really just staying dedicated, staying motivated, because that drives you to do better in the next show. If one show you do bad, the next one, doing a bad performance can motivate you to do another better performance. I
think the other thing is, we do this show. We may not get that many views on it, people watching the show, but Nate takes it and breaks it down into the separate topics that we discuss and puts those out there separately, and we get lots of comments on those and lots of views and get some subscriptions out of it too. So that's another thing you can consider.
And bringing down clips. I would agree. I mean, I could also give you the very basic answer, post it all over on social media to maximize your impressions, but that can get, annoying, I would say, if you just keep, pushing out content, every day, multiple times a day. I think it can get annoying in some regard. But basically, just to sum it all up, stay dedicated, stay motivated, make it easy, make it something you're passionate about. Don't push yourself to talk about a topic that you don't necessarily understand, don't care about, don't feel passionate about. Talk about whatever you want to care about, because that'll show how much you care, and I think people will be attracted with that. You don't need 99% of the stuff a lot of people have. Get a $25 microphone on Amazon, get a simple $50 mixer, hook it up to whatever computer you have, and that'll be fine. Then if you want to do a show like we do, invest in a camera. But really, podcast form is fine. That's what, honestly, we actually have a decent amount of views on Spotify and other podcast softwares. What I use to actually upload this show in audio-only format on Spotify is I use something called Spotify for Podcasters, which is super beneficial because it auto-publishes this show audio-only form in places like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, on Spotify. It automatically does this, so I don't need to go in and do that. So if you're just doing audio only, I would say record whatever you want to record, upload it to Spotify for Podcasters, and it'll auto-distribute. You obviously have to set stuff up, but it'll auto-distribute there, so you don't have to do that. So hopefully that answers your question, Tyler. But thank you for asking questions, and I'll repeat it again. If you want to send in your question on the show, the second link down below, the first one is an affiliate link for NordVPN, which is, I have to say this, a phenomenal online security tool. If you're nervous about online security, download NordVPN using the link down below. But also, that second link where it's posted, send us your questions, that's where you can submit your questions in audio form. We'll answer them on the show. So there we go. The second time we've ever done that. So hopefully we answer the question. But I think this may wrap up today's episode of the Harvey Hour. Thursday should be a good game. Bills-Bucks. You got the Bills, but you got Bucks plus 8.5. I got Bills straight up. Friday, we go back. We hopefully I can rebound. I'm still above 50% on my Harvey hot hand, but it hasn't been a good 3 weeks. 2-3, and then doubled up on a 1-4 week.
Yeah, we had a tough week this past week.
It's very, very bad. If it goes bad again, Tuesday, there will be a brand new topic called "What Went Wrong? What Went Right?" There won't be a lot of rights if we have another repeat of this past week. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, we thank you for tuning into the show. Thank you for listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from. For this episode, my name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Good night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts